The fastest way to make a RAG system lie is to tell it, answer only from context.
Yes, because that instruction sounds safe. But in production, it often creates a worse failure mode. The model still has to produce an answer, and when the retrieved context is thin, noisy, or slightly off, it starts treating bad evidence like a hard boundary.
So the promise is restraint, but the actual result is fake certainty.
Exactly. You think you removed hallucination. What you really did was hide the real problem, which is retrieval quality, context assembly, and whether the evidence actually supports the question.
And programmers care because this is where trust breaks, right? Not in demos, in live systems.
Right. In a real RAG product, users do not grade you on prompt purity. They grade you on whether the answer is grounded, useful, and honest about uncertainty. If your system says, based on the provided context, and then gives the wrong answer, that phrasing makes it worse, not better.
Give me a concrete version of that.
Imagine an internal support bot for a payments company. An employee asks, "Can we reverse an international wire after settlement?" Retrieval brings back a policy page about domestic ACH reversals and a glossary entry with the word settlement. The model is told to answer only from context, so it stitches those together and says, yes, within 5 business days. That answer sounds disciplined.
So, the system looks compliant while failing at the exact moment the business risk is highest.
That is the key tension. The instruction shifts blame away from retrieval and onto the model's wording. It gives teams a false sense of control.
Why does the instruction fail so consistently? What is the mechanism?
There are 3 common mechanisms. First, partial match bias. Retrieved text overlaps with the query just enough that the model treats it as relevant evidence. Second, coverage gaps. The needed fact is absent, but the model still tries to complete the task. Third, context collision. 2 chunks are each locally reasonable, but together they imply something neither source actually says.
That last one is nasty, because it feels like synthesis, but it is really fabrication with citations nearby.
Exactly. And this is why telling the model to stay inside the context is not enough. Context is not truth. Context is just what retrieval handed over.
Before anyone rushes to tweak prompts, what should they inspect first?
Inspect the retrieval trace for real user questions, not synthetic benchmarks. Look at the original query, the rewritten query if you do rewriting, the top results, their scores, the order they were inserted, and the final assembled prompt. You want to see whether the answer was actually recoverable from what the system fetched.
So not did the model behave, but did the pipeline hand it something answerable?
Yes. Also inspect what got excluded. In many systems, the fatal bug is not a bad chunk that got in. It is the one authoritative document that got outranked by something more lexically similar, but less applicable.
Give me another real-world scenario.
Take a developer docs assistant. Someone asks, does the API support idempotency keys on refund endpoints? Retrieval returns a general authentication page, a rate limits page, and an old changelog mentioning idempotent create operations. The model answers, yes, refunds support idempotency keys, because the context mentions idempotency and API operations. But the current refund doc, the one page that matters, was missing from retrieval entirely.
And then the team says the LLM hallucinated, when really, the retriever set a trap.
Correct. That diagnosis matters, because if you mislabel a retrieval failure as a generation failure, you waste weeks tuning the wrong layer.
What else should you inspect before trying fixes?
Inspect answerability. For each failed query, ask a simple question. If a careful human saw only this context, could they answer confidently? If not, the system should abstain or ask a follow-up. Next, inspect source authority. Are you mixing policy, commentary, changelogs, examples, and tickets as if they carry equal weight?
That is a power shift inside the prompt. A random example file can end up overpowering the actual spec.
Exactly. And one more thing. Inspect query intent mismatch. A user may ask a decision question, but retrieval returns definitional text. The words align, the task does not. The model then converts reference material into advice.
So what is the practical move once you see these failures? Not a framework trick, a design move.
Separate evidence finding from answer commitment. Make the system explicitly test whether the retrieved material contains a direct basis for the claim. If not, it should say the context does not establish an answer, or it should ask for a narrower question. That is far more reliable than a blanket command to answer only from context.
And the payoff is not just fewer wrong answers, it is better product behavior under pressure.
Yes, the winners are the teams that treat RAG as an evidence system, not a prompt slogan. When the stakes rise, the best answer is not always an answer. Sometimes it is a visible gap.
So the real upgrade is brutal honesty about what the system knows, what it fetched, and what it still cannot support.
Exactly. Answer only from context sounds safe. Inspect whether the context can answer first. In RAG, trust is not built by narrowing the model. It is built by proving the evidence deserves the answer.